Hello, and thanks for joining us for today's tech demo with the focus on AWS and Azure. My name is Kevin Collins from Unitrends, and I'm here with Jordan Warsoff, one of our solutions engineers, and he'll be taking us through the demo. And don't forget, one lucky attendee will be walking away with a $500 Amazon gift card. We'll contact the winner via email after the demo. But before we get it started, I'd like to cover a few housekeeping items. This session will be recorded, and after the event, you'll receive an email with a link to the on-demand version of the demo. I would also encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation. You can do so by typing them into the Q&A box on the bottom right of the player. We'll answer your questions at the end of the session. At this point, I'll turn it over to Jordan. Enjoy the presentation, and Jordan, take it away.
Thank you so much, Kevin, and good afternoon, good day, good evening, good morning to everyone. Today we're going to really focus on kind of going to the cloud, but I wanted to kind of get us a little phrase as to why the cloud even came around. And one of the big reasons is that our environment's changing. Basically, today we're facing the less is more world. IT, staff, admins, departments, directors, CIOs, CTOs, and everyone in between is faced with the less is more world. We in IT now have less time, less money, and less downtime to be able to produce what we want to do. And in response to that, we actually have more risk, more work, and more projects on our plate. Instead of things getting easier as technology is developed, things have gotten harder. How many today are now involved in operations discussions and being a core tenet in how a company effectively runs or makes revenue or functions? Compare that to 10 or 20 years ago, it's very different. On top of that, how many people have seen their budget and their demand and their, I would say, the respect and really the importance grow at the same rate? Most people say no, they have not seen that kind of thing. And that's kind of pertinent because it means that we're more important than ever, but we don't have more time or more money to do so. So we're involved with these things, and everything's changing. Data is growing dramatically quick at 33x, so you're going to need to manage more data, more information. We're under threat by ransomware. 60% of businesses have been attacked by ransomware, and it costs North American businesses at least $700 billion after the recent Equifax, if that even counted as downtime, just going to increase this number. So this is specifically data center outages. I guess Equifax wouldn't count, but like the Delta Airlines going down last year. There's several others that would be able to do this. So there's a lot of things threatening you. And going to the cloud is a great way to be able to kind of expand and leverage how much effort we're trying to put forth in making sure that us as individuals is able to do more. And all these workloads matter. Physical backups, virtual, cloud workloads, but don't assume that anyone else is going to do the backup for you. When it comes to Azure and AWS, not only can you not assume that anyone else is backing it up, you also can't assume that you can just use it for backups no problem. There's always going to be some kind of way. And people are adopting the cloud at rapid rates. You can kind of see we've got about 30% using Azure or AWS. And we can see even running applications at AWS along with Azure. So kind of interesting cloud interest within. On the left is what our Unitrends customer base is saying. On the right is what we see in the public. So it's kind of a nice cross-section. So you see there's a demand to utilize the cloud in some form of another, whether that's production workloads, DevOps, whatever the case may be. And it helps us prevent all that kind of downtime that we really want to combat. So how do we combat these things when more people are trying to go to it? And the answer is simplicity. Now, another product out there, Nutanix, it's a hyperconverged storage. It replaces server, storage, and hypervisor. It basically is bringing the cloud locally. So there's obviously a demand to simplify and make things more effective. So finding some kind of solution that is all-in-one is key to making sure that you have that flexibility and that sustainability of time. And you can see their valuation has grown dramatically to be able to do so. So us as IT professionals, we have to do a ton more with a lot less. So when you're going to data protection, you need to find a solution that has no finger pointing, provides less management, more flexibility, more uptime, more confidence, and frankly more free time, ability to move on to far more interesting tasks, move on to what really is going to kind of float your boat and move the needle when it comes to IT, rather than having to worry about protecting the cloud or protecting local backups. And Unitrends seeks out to provide exactly that. We've got an all-in-one enterprise backup and continuity solution that utilizes both local and cloud offerings. It used to be they'd have multiple vendors with finger pointing. It was a lot of work to be able to set up and configure with limited continuity, no way to test reliably your protection. It was a Windows deployment that was malware susceptible, and it was a fragmented and awful customer support experience. So many people have horror stories about customer support, and finding a solution that's really able to bring you to this new world where cloud and scalability is a big thing is vital. In today's day and age, we're working towards, you want one vendor, one hand to shake, I like to say. There's less work. You can rack connect it and go. You want a solution that's easy to maintain, easy to deploy, easy to go to the cloud or not, and provides an assurance that you're able to recover, built on a secure Linux platform that provides a unified customer satisfaction experience that can give you more confidence in your capabilities. And that's exactly what we can kind of provide. Rather than having all these different layers to provide your recovery assurance, your cloud, your local, and all of that, consider going with some kind of like Unitrends solution where you're able to go and do it all in one, whether that's our cloud or as we're talking about today, Azure, AWS, where you can keep it all within a Unitrends solution and minimize the number of vendors you have in play. Our customer support team is top-notch. Rather than having to deal with multiple solutions that had multiple vendors that were doing multiple things, you have an awesome 98% customer-approved support org that's going to be able to support you from top to bottom, from the local hardware all the way to the cloud solution. So how are people using the cloud? What are the ways that Unitrends can help you enable the cloud? And these are the four main cases we tend to see. Migration, where you want to move from the local to workloads from local to the cloud. Disaster recovery. Offsite backup copies, where you want to copy data offsite from a local backup, or you want to back up those actual instances. We're going to go into each of these and kind of explore what that looks like as we go. So first, talk about cloud migration disaster recovery. We accomplish this through a tool called Boomerang. Unitrends Boomerang tool is a cloud disaster recovery platform where basically for the cloud disaster recovery, and I guess it's a little bit out of order, what you're going to do is you're going to begin by installing the Unitrends Boomerang virtual appliance in your local storage. In your local data center. It's going to take your VMware VMs, organize them in a group, and it's going to manage the DR process. You then replicate those backups to either low-cost Azure blobs or AWS S3 storage. There's no instance that needs to run to do this. You just need the storage. So you're going to pay less than you would having to do some kind of hot replication or anything like that. Once a disaster occurs, you go on to step 5, where on command you can run an Azure instance or an AWS EC2 instance, and it's going to spin up from that snapshot you've already done, convert it, and resume those operations in the cloud. And then here's the kicker. Once you're running in the cloud and you've re-prepared your local environment and ready to fail back, Unitrends has one-click failback where you can bring it back to your local VMware environment, IT settings, configuration, everything intact, so you can go on with whatever kind of production or things you're trying to do. And that's kind of important, being able to have some kind of solution that able to provide all of these things. Let's go and take a look at what Boomerang looks like. Give this a second. So here is Boomerang. So right now you can see not a ton going on the dashboard. In this instance, we actually have a single one running to AWS, but the configuration is pretty much almost exactly the same. The way it works is we go in and we provide what's called a protection group. To set up a protection group, simply come to this button. I select which one. I have the AWS set up, give it a name, give it a test name. I can do the tags, so these are the settings and where I want them to go to. It's an associated bucket. And then step 3 is I simply go and choose the VMs I want to include as a part of this protection group. I select which ones I want, and then I hit save, and that's it. I've set up and saved that protection group so I can go in, and those are the VMs that I'm going to try to attempt to protect. Once you have the protection group set up, I can come here and I can begin the scheduling process for that replication. I can set up how often I want it to replicate. This one I believe is setting up every day. And I can modify it. It looks like it's every 30 days, but I can run it on my own schedule. I can set how frequent I want it to occur and when I want to delete the backups. Then once the data is up there, I can see the activity. I can then set up to deploy in those clouds. I can pick which snapshot I want to utilize, which VPC I would want to go execute under, and then deploy now. Very similar instance to Azure. Instead of using S3 though, you're going to be using the Azure blob storage, converting over to the instance. This does it all automatically. Then lastly, you can also see once it's been deployed, you'll then be able to pick which data center you want to recover to. So I want to recover back to our Burlington site, which host, which data store, and which virtual network. And I can start the copy back where it's going to bring the data back that's been deployed and be able to recover without requiring a ton of manual intervention. I think that's a huge advantage that other vendors or other solutions out there really can't provide. And that's kind of the high level of what Boomerang can do. As we saw, you can install it, deploy it out, convert it over, spin it up, and then bring it back down. It's as easy as that. And it does it all by being purpose-built for the public cloud. It replicates those VMs, it remodels them, uses no cloud compute, and it automates all the steps for failover and bringing the data back. Not to mention, the other advantage of all of this is that you can use it as a migration tool. Choose some VMs you want to send up, use backup and replication to be able to do that from your snapshots rather than having to use manual intervention. So, boom, we've already taken care of 2 out of the 4. We're going to be able to do cloud migration and disaster recovery. Next, let's look at taking data off-site, so off-site backup copies. The way this works is Unitrends is deployed locally like you would, and we're going to start taking backups of the data within that local data center. From there, you have a common management dashboard of your local backups and the stuff you're sending to the cloud. You can then recover from the cloud, instantly recover from the on-site, from the cloud to the on-site, all sorts of different options that you have. On top of that, once the data is in the cloud, you can then recover files, VMs, whatever you might need to do at that secondary location. So a lot of capabilities and a lot of flexibility we try to provide, and it's all done super easily. So let's look at this first. The way this looks is like so. So I'm going to go into my Unitrends appliance, and here the way I have it set up is I have my local VM here, my local instance that's running the backups of everything here, and I'm replicating to this DR site. The way this works is I basically can set up jobs to run these backups. It's going to be from the local appliance running off to the replication target. So once I've got these backups, so you can see all these backup jobs, I'm backing up snapshots, I'm backing up physical servers, backing up different applications. They all get up there. And then once they're done, I can set up hot backup copies where I'm going to replicate that data to a secondary target, which could be AWS or Azure. Once the data is there, I can then choose to recover individual files back down to the local instance so I can see what data has been replicated, filter for it, and I can actually import those backups that have been sent to the other site. So let's show, for example, an older backup that I still have on here. Just a second to load. And here I can drag. All of these are replicated copies that are in Azure. I can choose to either recover them to an instance running in Azure, or bring them back locally and I can recover them to a local site where I can recover back to the server. So if I don't have the data locally, I could import it back from the Azure or AWS cloud to my local data center and recover the files that way. So a lot of options and a lot of flexibility we try to provide that you can do the recoveries you need. On top of that, you might also want to protect your Azure instances in the cloud, and Unitrends can provide that as well. The way that works is you have your cloud-based applications. You're going to deploy agents running on each of those cloud-based instances that are going to back up to the Unitrends app appliance running within the Azure cloud. So again, all managed in a common dashboard where I can see these backups. I can go in and I can browse the files, make sure I'm holding the data and securing it, and then I can recover those files back to any Azure instances or even replicate them to another Unitrends site. And that kind of looks like, you would have some kind of long-term solution being able to kind of meet that. So here, for example, this virtual appliance is running. I could back up the files within that instance and then copy it back to the Unitrends cloud, for example, or copy it to AWS to Azure. You have multiple options when it comes to what's the best way to utilize the storage and how to get it across. Unitrends gives you all the options. You pick whatever makes the most sense for your environment. And that's kind of the whole approach we always try to take, is what's the most logical solution, what's the most optimal solution for the recovery I'm trying to achieve. And in doing so, you can easily set up the backups to protect those servers, those instances running in AWS or Azure. And it's as easy as setting up an agent-based job, checking off the servers, selecting which directories you want to include or exclude, and then simply going in and setting up the schedule. If I want to run it periodically, if I want to run it frequently, that's all available right from within here. I can simply hit save, and that job is saved, created, I'm ready to take that data and back it up. And then I can recover individual files, whole machines, whatever I need to do. A ton of options are there depending on what kind of recovery you're trying to accomplish. So a lot of stuff we really went into, and Azure and AWS provides a lot of capabilities to be able to meet whatever needs you may have. And you don't have to take just my word for it. We have a ton of customers that are using Unitrends to be able to go to Azure, AWS, bring it back, do whatever makes the most sense for their environment. Once it's there, they're very easily able to utilize and configure and set up and manage their environment so that they can back up whatever it is they need to be able to do. So by providing a holistic approach that's able to protect more, you can make sure that you have a single vendor that's going to provide less work, provide you the local and cloud continuity, not to mention we have automated testing of those backups, all built on a secure system that has a unified and higher customer satisfaction experience. So getting to the cloud is easier than ever, and you can utilize Unitrends to be able to get there, to be able to protect what's up there, and to ensure that you are doing what's best to secure your valuable data, especially since we're becoming more and more of a main stage approach and a mainstay of being able to ensure our businesses can function. We need to make sure that we are developed and ready to handle whatever protection needs come our way. So with that, that's really the quick and dirty we've got about Azure and AWS. I'm sure we have probably a few questions about what's going on, but if we could have, I'm going to turn it back over to Kevin to kind of go over the Q&A. We can go over anything that may not be clear, and happy to talk about Unitrends capabilities with Azure and AWS. Kevin, take it away.
Thanks, Jordan. We got a few questions come in. There's still time to ask a question. You can do so by typing it into the bottom right of the player. And why don't we jump in and get started? The first question is, analysis and reporting are very big for our company. What does Boomerang offer in that area, in parentheses, VM availability, network congestion, et cetera? Oop, are you on mute?
I was muted. So we can show you basically when the restores were, how long they took, and there's a good amount of reporting you can kind of see of the different capabilities. In terms of spin-up time and stuff like that, you can set them up to be standby and ready to run using Boomerang, but that's, in terms of report, you can just grab that information simply right here from the main screen. So I know we don't have one here, but you could actually go in and set up, how, whoops, I shouldn't show all that stuff. You can go in and see, how the latest deployment, how long it took. So we don't have any running right now, but this is where you'll be able to go in and see how long and what their status is, and you can again go in and see historically what they've been able to do and how long it took. Good question.
Okay, the next question is, does Unitrends support MS Hyper-V as well?
Yeah, we support doing Hyper-V backups locally. We've got a huge list of stuff we can support with local backups. We talked about it briefly here, but we can do physical servers. We can protect Windows, Linux, Unix, Solaris, Go, but then we can also do snapshot capabilities of VMware, Hyper-V, and Citrix Zen Server. You can take those backups, and then we can send them to, any of those hyperscale clouds, and we can recover the files out of those snapshots to your instances running within Azure AWS. So you got a lot of recovery options, not to mention our cloud. We also offer DR as a service where you can actually spin up those instances in our cloud, and you can get that short downtime without having to use another hyperscale cloud. You can just use it all within one umbrella organization and have all that within the one support group kind of approach. Great question.
Okay, here's a question on migration tool trade-offs. Do you know if there's any trade-offs between us, Zerto, in MS site recovery in Azure setting?
There's a few options. So the biggest advantage that Unitrends is going to provide compared to Zerto is we don't require an instance running. So you're going to pay not only more for licensing with Zerto, but you're going to have to pay for an instance to be running constantly to get that replication to go up. With Unitrends, we use CBT and send it directly to the storage. So no instance, just the storage cost. It's going to be more economical, and it's probably going to be able to accomplish what you need with just some simple migration. You don't need to kind of do that overload. In terms of the Azure Site Recovery Manager, the big change we've got there is, I believe, the copy back capabilities. Whereas with Site Recovery Manager, the whole point is to kind of get it over to the single site and kind of migrate over using the settings. With Unitrends Boomerang, what you can do is you can send it up there and then bring it back to VMware or soon to be Hyper-V. So it's for VMware only today, and you can bring it back with all the settings intact. So it's kind of a huge advantage to really provide that scalability and that kind of flexibility. So if you go in, the applications don't work right, you can always bring it back to a local VMware environment. Plus, you might not want to permanently fail over, and that's exactly where Unitrends Boomerang can help you, where we can recover those pieces back into it. Good question.
Okay. Next question is Boomerang a part of Unitrends?
So yes, it's a part of our company. I see the follow-up question. Do you provide the equipment or the platform to work with your existing equipment? So today, Boomerang runs as a separate instance, but it's all supported by the same organization. We are working at integration that should be out in the future, but what we do today is for just the Boomerang piece, it's just the software. You need to provide the platform for Unitrends backup. That's where we do offer an all-in-one physical appliance you can bring locally that can do all the backups and replicate that to Azure AWS as well. So you kind of have those two options that we can really address utilizing Unitrends. One is kind of replicating the backups to a secondary site, or you can do the Boomerang capability where you're taking the snapshots, sending them, and that's all software to software. Great question.
Okay, next question is, do you have solutions for small market customers, meaning those with only 50 to 75 servers? If so, what's a rough estimate of cost?
Sure, that's a good question. It really depends on what you're trying to do. Yes, those only 50 to 75 servers were a great fit for that. That's kind of right in our sweet spot range. Usually, with Boomerang, even a single VM you can get from Unitrends. The Boomerang is priced per VM. It starts at $24.95, so it's not to $24.95 per VM. And that pricing can be used to migrate, to replicate, whatever you need to be able to accomplish. So that's one option, and that could be, super scalable depending on your size. And then with going to our Unitrends solution, it's actually scalable from a software perspective. We can do multiple servers. We license it based off of the host socket count or plus the number of physical servers you're trying to protect. So just about what the servers you're trying to protect. Oh, and by the way, I'm just looking up now, Boomerang is actually less expensive. It's $21.60 per VM per month. So the price has actually gone down. That's my bad on that. That's why I normally don't talk about costs. But that's going to provide you with that replication. So yeah, absolutely, we have solutions for small customers. You can see all of our software pricing, and actually, instead of telling, I may as well just show it. You can see how much our recovery series appliances are. You can see our Unitrends backup software, Crossfire, and Unitrends Boomerang. So you can come to any of these, and you can actually view the cost for each of these options in there. So here, I'll show you pricing, bam, pricing. And pricing. That's the Boomerang pricing we were just talking about, where you can pay $21.60. Hey Jeff, not right now. So that's $21.60 per month. You see our software starts at free for an up to 1 terabyte. If you have more than a terabyte, that's where our $350 per socket or per physical server. And our physical appliances range anywhere, sorry, keep hitting the wrong one. And our physical appliances range anywhere from 2,500 all the way up to 207. So for a small customer, you're probably in the lower ranges of all of these, but by all means we can reach out and find out afterwards what makes the most sense and which appliance works best for your company, depending on what strategy you're trying to take. So you can let us know about Boomerang, let us know about Unitrends, and we can figure out which is the best option from there.
Okay, next question is, can we export reports from this application?
Yeah, so the Unitrends appliance, we have a ton of different reports you can export. You got the backup report, recovery report, backup copies, storage, compliance. You can see a bunch of information about what got sent, how long the backups took, what the backup copies are taking, and all of this within the Unitrends is able to see within here. Within Boomerang, you can view the details of all of the different deployments, and then you can see kind of the activity. You view the details of those. I believe you can export the logs for that, but I don't think there's a way to export the PDFs directly for it. And you shouldn't need to. It's going to kind of give you the quick and dirty is, here's what it did, here's how long it took, and here's the pieces for it. So not a ton, but yeah, there are reports available in both to get information on your data set sizes.
Okay, next question is, are there any limitations on VM's quantity capacity with the Boomerang appliance?
There's a number, but it's like pretty far up there. The biggest limiter we tend to see is resources, basically network bandwidth and change rate. So if you're not able to do the snapshots and replicate them with enough speed to AWS or Azure, that tends to be the biggest bottleneck. In terms of the solution itself, it's kind of a point-to-point. The Boomerang appliance doesn't really need many resources. It's more of an orchestration and a conversion tool. So the biggest, no real limit. If you're beyond, the 10 to, if you're in the 5 to 6 figures of VMs, talk to us. We might need to do some configurations, but there's a way. But there's definitely large deployments are possible. We've seen 5-figure ones regularly that are able to utilize Boomerang to get to their desired cloud targets.
Okay. Does this solution work on Nutanix AHV?
Yes, we currently can protect Acropolis through agents, and we announced that by the end of the year we are going to have explicit snapshot support for Acropolis, where we're going to be able to take snapshot backups of those VMs running in AHV. But for everything else Nutanix, we currently support from top to bottom. We're going to do VMware snapshots, Hyper-V snapshots, and we'll have AHV snapshots coming shortly. But as of today, Nutanix loves using us as a recommendation to protect their environments, and a lot that we're able to do and accomplish with that.
Okay. And are there any plans to support other cloud providers besides AWS and Azure?
As of today, no major changes. We do have some cloud capabilities with like Google and Rackspace for pushing small data sets. In terms of large scale, nothing in the near horizon. We're looking to Google as kind of our next target, but no confirmed date on when we're going to be able to get that yet.
All right. One more question and then we'll wrap it up. Last question is, how mature is this application? What version are you currently on?
So Boomerang today is version 2.3, I believe. Let's take a look. It's been around for, it was one of the first ones to be able to, let me see where it is. We just had it over here. But basically, Boomerang was one of the first deployment and replication tools, 2.2.1, excuse me. So we're currently on version 2.1. It was one of the first capabilities for being able to migrate and replicate VMware VMs to Azure AWS, and it's, I still think, one of the most, if not the most mature option for being able to go VMware to those cloud targets. It's a simple tool, but it's effective, and that's kind of the important. You want something that works, and you want something that's reliable, and that's exactly what Boomerang can provide very easily, and any issues you may have are able to do that. Not to mention with Unitrends, we're super mature. We've been going to cloud for hyperscale clouds for well over a year at this point. That was, I think, with our 9.0 or 9.1 release, which was early last year. So we've been able to utilize these hyperscale clouds for quite a while. And it's important, and we're constantly developing. And the nice thing to note is that all these new features and capabilities were available to all of our customers. We didn't require pays for an upgrade or for a specific, hyperscale cloud patch. Or a package that you needed to buy or add or maintain. That functionality was included by default for all current customers that had an active support contract.
All right. Well, thanks, Jordan. As a reminder, this demo was recorded, and you'll receive an email with a link to the on-demand version. Thanks again for joining us, and we look forward to having you on future tech demos. Thanks so much, everybody.